Meeting called to order, and I want to welcome everyone to the chamber. Please join me in the prayers. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who deserves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessings and all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me in the allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercier. Counsel Noon.
Here.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Here.
Counsel Yem.
Here.
Mayor Chow.
Here.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Here.
Counsel Getchia.
Here.
Counsel Janess.
Present.
10 present.
Any memorials or moment of silence from any of the councilors? Hearing none. I do have one, and if there's no objection, I'd like to read the memorials from the podium. This is for the mother of two couple who are dear friends of mine, Bob Hunt and Phyllis Hunt. I would like to request a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Josephine Helen Robel, 97, of Lowell, Massachusetts, who passed away on Sunday, February 5th, 2023. She was the wife of the late John F. Robel, with whom she had shared 55 years of marriage. She was born in Lowell, March 19, 1925, a member of the greatest generation. She was the daughter of Polish immigrants, the late Joseph W. and Mary M. Sapa Zigadlo. Josie was educated in the Lowell Public Schools, graduating from Lowell High School, class of 1942. After high school, she immediately joined the World War II effort as a Rosie the Riveter welder at Fort Devens, serving until the end of the war. In the following years, Josie had many different jobs. She was industrious and exhibited a strong work ethic. She retired as a beloved daycare teacher with the CTI Head Start of Lowell. Josie was an ardent and active member of St. Casimir's Church. She served on numerous parish committees and held office in many sodalities. She was a member of the Frederick Chopin Choir, TOP, T-O-P, MK Society, and the Blessed Sacrament Sodality. She was proud of her Polish heritage and was a member of the Dom Polski. Josie enjoyed daily walking, reading, solving crossword puzzles, family dinners, theme parties, and she had the wanderlust for travel. She loved all animals, but was especially fond of her cats. Josie is survived by her two daughters, Joanne Menzies and Phyllis Hunt, and her husband, Robert, all of Lowell, four granddaughters, Tanya Poleshner, Cole, Erica Pelletier, Richard, Johanna Ford Hunt, Danielle, Magdalena Mason Michael, and a granddaughter by choice, Amy Tillman. Great-grandchildren, Ian and Emma Ford Hunt, Heath Pelletier, and Patrick Mason. She's also survived by several nieces and nephews whom she treasured. In addition to her husband, Josie is predeceased by her son-in-law, Paul Menzies, and three brothers, Frank, Edwin, and Walter Zigadlo, and a sister, Anna Couture. Please, Mr. Clerk, darken the chamber, and please join me in a moment of silence in her honor. We now will start the meeting with the mayor's business. 2.1, Communication remote, Zoom participation, a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Drinkwater, second by Councilor Jeunesse. Motion is adopted. The next two items on the citation. It's, as you know, this is Black History Month, and it's my, every week, every meeting, we honor Black Americans in our community who have made a tremendous service and contribution to our city. Today, we honor Tracy Mitchell, and he's a dear friend of Corey Robinson, so I'm going to ask Councilor Robinson to please read the citation on our behalf. If you could have Tracy come to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Official citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Tracy Mitchell. Tracy Mitchell is a Lowell basketball legend and an AAU track All-American with a legacy that lives on far beyond the city limits. He's a proud father of 5 and a devoted husband to his wife, Carmen. They currently reside in District 2, Centerville. Mr. Mitchell has made a name for himself, not only for taking the local high school game to a new height, but he's also widely known as the father of the slam dunk in Lowell. His dedication and work ethic catapulted his basketball career and placed him among the final cuts of the 1986 world champion Boston Celtics. His achievements have made him a household name in the area and set the bar for the future generations of our players. He's brought a dynamic athletic system to the Lowell High School hoop scene, where he played for 3 years, leading Lowell to a consecutive tournament berth, 1976 through 1979. Tracy consistently led the Red Raiders in scoring, rebounding, steals, and block shots. Tracy's efforts culminated in the 1978-79 season when, as team captain, he was named as Boston Globe All-Scholastic and played on the prestigious Boston Shootout All-Star team. After high school, Tracy attended Maine Central Institute Prep School and Saddleback Junior College in California, where he starred in basketball and track. His first year at Saddleback Junior College, they won the JUCO championship, and he was named first team All-Conference and later inducted into the Hall of Fame at Saddleback Junior College. At TCU, he was a 2-year starter and team captain, and later invited to the Boston Celtics training camp. During his time in the Celtics training camp, he played in 4 preseason games. In practice, he was surrounded by players who could make up a separate wing of the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield. He was teammates of Hall of Famers Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, and Bill Walton. His coach was Casey Jones, who's also in the Hall of Fame. As a dedicated high school and college referee, Tracy continues to pass on his wisdom, his expertise, and his experience. He's gifted with the uncanny ability to motivate others. He leads by example. He encourages those around him to strive for excellence and never limit their potential. On the track, Tracy was one of the most versatile performers of recent decades. After placing second in both the Mass State and New England High School championships in the long jump, Tracy gained the AAU All-American honors in that event by placing 5th in the National Junior Olympics. Tracy's leap of 23 feet 11 inches still stands as a Lowell High School record 40 years later. Tracy is also inducted into the Lowell High School Hall of Fame. Tracy is highly respected by his peers, for those in his field, as well as by his community. His guidance has proven invaluable to the success of many a mentee. His commitment to their preparedness, development, and success is unwavering. Tracy Mitchell is an exemplary mentor and role model for his family, his students, and his community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sakari Chow, on behalf of the entire City Council and residents of Lowell, hereby offer our respect, gratitude, and best wishes to Tracy Mitchell for your selfless community service, given this 14th day of February 2023. Thank you.
That citation was signed by myself, Corey Robinson, and the entire City Council. You are a legend on the court, in the community, and it's an honor to have you here in our chamber. Any members would like to say anything else before Tracy can say a few words? Tracy, if you'd like to say a few words?
First, I'd like to say thank you for that introduction, Corey. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the council for that citation and to honor me here today. I don't have a lot to say. I'm a very mild-mannered person. But first off, I'd like to thank the person who really guided me and gave me the wisdom and the strength and the guidance, my late mom, Willa Mae Mitchell, because without her, none of this would be possible. So I want to thank her for her commitment to me, my brothers and my sisters, in moving here from Georgia at a young age to give us a different opportunity in life that guided us from that point on. Also like to thank my wife, Carmen, who's been by my side, who allowed me to run in and out of the house every night of the week just about, to go run up and down the highways to go do basketball, something I love to do. And my daughter, who are here, two of my daughters, my son and other daughter who couldn't be here today. Thank them for putting up with me, my grandson who's here today with us too. But most of all, I'd just like to thank the City of Lowell because there's a lot of people that guided me and gave me an opportunity. I started off in the Lowell Rec Department that the Larry Kavanaugh Sr., late Larry Kavanaugh Sr., who passed away, helped start that rec department. And that was my first organized basketball. And once I started playing organized basketball and realized that it was something I wanted to do and I loved to do, it kind of guided me on my path to where I am today. Because prior to that, I was always getting in trouble in school and couldn't sit down, very antsy, and basketball gave me a way out, per se. And knowing what I had to do to continue to do something I love to do, I had to get myself together, get my grades together, and start my journey. So I thank the City of Lowell for all those people that helped me along the way, because there was many people, so many that I can't even name all of them, but I give them a lot of thanks, and I appreciate everything that this city has done to me, and that's why I feel obligated to try to give something back to the city. And I try to guide kids and give kids the right information they need to push themselves, because I would love to see every kid in this city, whether it's basketball, hockey, baseball, or academics, to get the opportunities that I got to see much of this country and also around the world, that basketball, without basketball, that I never would have had that opportunity. And I met so many people that become friends, that I'm still friends with today. A lot of people I call my brothers and my sisters, and that would never change. And thanks to basketball, that opened up a lot of those avenues in my life, and I really, really appreciated this game and everything the city has done for me. Thank you very much.
Tracy, please give us the honor, take a photo with all the councilors here inside the chamber.
Good job, Tracy. Tell him.
On Tracy's citation, a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Jeunesse. The motion is adopted. The next citation is very fun for me to do. A young gentleman, and you learn that every generation can make a big difference, and you could do leap and bound and become a leader. This is to a sixth grader from the Stoklosa, and I thank the teacher Matthew Gillis for reaching out to us. And if you could come to the podium, right there, I'm going to read the citation to you, and he's accompanied by his teacher Matthew and his parents, Javier, and friends. You're going to get excited when you hear the type of award this young man is getting. The official citation, be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers a sincerest congratulations to Brandon Australia, Above the Clouds Award 2023. Brandon was chosen by the Boys and Girls Club for the Above the Clouds Award. He was chosen for always having a positive attitude, being an outstanding citizen, and always going the extra mile. Above the Clouds was founded in 2012 by Gary Oberstein. It brings joy and hope through the wonder of flight to children and teens who have a serious illness or disability, are underserved, or facing other serious adversity. Above the Cloud programs provide important relief for kids under tremendous stress and inspire disengaged youth to participate in making their dreams come true. Above the Cloud engages dedicated volunteer pilots, ground crew, and joy makers. So it's my honor to present this citation to you, Brandon, and just to put it like in a summary, he's going to fly a 4-passenger plane on March 4th. So if many of us here are afraid of flying, but he's going to be flying. And I spoke with him earlier before the meeting. He's a brave young man, and when he grows up, he wants to be a firefighter, and he was lucky enough to meet with the fire chief earlier this evening as well. Brandon, would you like to say a few words?
I just want to say thank you to my mom and my family for bringing me to this round, and the fire chief for achieving my dream.
Matthew's teacher from Stoklosa, do you want to say anything or about the program a little bit?
Brandon's a wonderful kid, and it was brought to my attention by Janet Koza, his teacher, Ms. Herber, and guidance counselor Yvette Crowell. And right away, I reached out to this wonderful city council and the mayor. Thank you guys so much for this. Brandon was chosen by the Boys and Girls Club for his positive attitude, and he just brings sunshine everywhere he goes. So this is a wonderful honor for him and for the city of Lowell, and it's nice to hear something positive in the news. And he's a Stoklosa kid, and he's one of the best. So we're so happy for him. Great job, Brandon.
All right. Brandon, come on inside. We'll take a picture of the councilors. It'll be number 7, and I'll have the watch. 7. Okay. On that citation, a motion to adopt and place on the file by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Scott. Motion is adopted. Now we go to section 3 on the agenda, which is the city clerk. 3.1, Minutes of Neighborhood Subcommittee, February 7, City Council regular meeting, February 7th for acceptance. Any comments or questions by the councilor? Here none, need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Leahy, second by Councilor Janess. Motion is adopted. We do have section 4 is the general public hearings. We do have a few minutes before 7 o'clock. We'll come back to it.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion to
Councilor
suspend the
Gishio?
rules to take motion 9.9 out of order? I believe there's a registered speaker.
Okay, motion by Councilor Gishio to take item 9.9 out of order, second by Councilor Drinkwater. (9.9) is Councilor Gishio request city manager update the city council on repairs made to the voting machine for the hearing impaired. Mr. Clerk, Councilor Gishio, do you want a registered speaker to go first? Mr. Clerk, please call the registered speaker.
Yasmin Wheel Prasad.
Hello. Good evening, councilors. My name is Yasmin Wapafard, and I'm the coalition coordinator for Low Votes. I want to thank Councilor Gitcher for bringing me up the very important issue of voter access. In 2007, ballot marking voting machines were introduced in Lowell. These machines allowed hearing impaired, low vision, and blind voters to vote privately for the first time, as they previously had to rely on another person to help them fill out their ballot. These machines aren't perfect, and last November, I was a warden at the Riley School, and I'm here tonight to share with you all my experience of attempting to help voters use these machines. I want to say before I begin that my intention is not to place blame, but I do hope that by being witness, it becomes clear why it's so important that we have working ballot marking machines at polling locations. On Election Day, at least 10 voters who are either hearing impaired, low vision, or blind came through the Riley School to vote. I want to make it clear that these were only the voters that I personally helped or made accommodations for. It's very possible there were more. Of these voters, many opted to bring a person to help them vote, which is their right, or accepted help from a poll worker to assist them in filling out their ballot. 2 residents, however, who are visually impaired, opted to use the ballot marking machine. Soon after the first resident attempted to feed their ballot into the machine, I was called over. The machine wasn't reading their ballot. I called the elections line and was told to restart the machine. 20 minutes later, the machine now restarted. We tried it again with no success. Every time, the ballot would either be spit back out or the ballot would get jammed and the machine would have to be opened, unjammed, and restarted. At one point, I was instructed to call the tech support line of the ballot marking machine company and was again told to restart it. This went on until 2 hours later when we received another machine to try. The same thing happened with this machine. Over 4 hours later, the situation was only resolved when the elections department sent over a car and picked up the 2 residents so they could vote at City Hall. It is not acceptable that these folks had to wait over 4 hours to vote, and it's not acceptable that while they were waiting, other residents who requested to use the machine either had to accept assistance from a poll worker in order to fill out their ballot or wait an indeterminate amount of hours until they could vote privately by machine. According to the Elections Department, the cause of the ballot marking machines not working that day was due to the size of the ballots provided by the state being incompatible and thus getting jammed in the machine, and not the machines themselves. If this is the case, hearing impaired, low vision, and blind residents should have no issues using the ballot marking machines to vote in this year's municipal election, as ballot design will be the city's responsibility. I urge the city to do proper testing of these machines before Election Day and to assure residents that they will have access to working ballot marking machines at each polling location. Thank you to the council for paying attention to this issue, and I look forward to the city manager's report that the machines are in working order.
Thank you for coming to speak. Mr. Clerk, any other registered speaker?
No, sir.
Councilor Gishia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I can say it any better than the speaker did. I just would ask that the manager would provide the council with a report on any remedies that are put forth. Being a member of the Disabilities Commission, I think that this was an important topic to bring forward that the commission asked to bring to the city council and to the city manager's attention. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to thank Councilor Gitcher for bringing this issue forward, as well as the speaker for sharing her experience on Election Day last year. She mentioned the different ballots last year and the issues. It's not the only issue we've heard. The state used a different vendor last year that used a different thickness or gauge of paper to print the ballots on. I don't know if we can use the original vendor or how that's going to work. Obviously, it's going to go through procurement and all that, but that's something to pay attention to and something we'll obviously need to test and make sure works. But I just wanted to, make sure that everyone was aware that there was that vendor change that caused many issues, and I hope that we can avoid that this year. Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions by any of the councilors? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion's carry. We do have a couple more minutes before the 7 o'clock public hearing. Are there any, Mr. Clerk, any other item that has?
Several registered speakers tonight, Mr.
Okay. Any councilor that has a preference that would like to go take any item out of order through suspension of rule? Okay, here now we only have a couple of minutes. Why don't we just go to the Section 5, communication from city manager, and you can interrupt me later after the public hearing. Motion response, A, the LTLC process and procedures. Any comments or questions, Councilor Robinson?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for this response, but part of the motion that I filed was requesting facilitating a meeting with LTLC in the council, I believe, and there's really no mention of that. It mentions how often they meet, but it doesn't mention about meeting with the council, and I think that's all that the report was missing.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, councilors. Yes, and I did put that in there primarily to explain the relationship and how close it is between the city and SMOC and LTLC. I spoke with David Cunningham. He's more than happy to meet with the council at their convenience.
Okay, thank you, because the whole thing would be, I mean, I know we get a lot of questions from constituents, and we deal with a lot of this out in our districts and with the residents. So if we could meet with LTLC, I don't know how we facilitate that meeting, because then that way any questions that we would have directly for them, at least we'd get it. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through to the council. Councilor, we were actually considering even having an opportunity for other councilors to visit with us, or we can have something in the mayor's reception room, whichever is easiest or best for the councilors, to be on site or to be in the mayor's reception room to, questions back and forth. But the relationship between the LTLC, SMOC, and the city has been, I think we've been talking once to twice a week. They've been a great partner.
Thank you. So will we hear back about potential dates or when we could meet with them?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Yes, we will be putting out dates to the councilors if they would like to, once again, take that tour. We'll be putting that together in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we are at the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to return back to where we left off on the Section 4, General Public Hearings, 4.1, Ordinance to amend zoning. This section is now open to all those in favor. Open to all those who are in favor. Anyone here would like to speak in favor? Hearing none, this section is now closed. We're now open to all those who oppose. This section is here open to anyone who's here to speak in opposition. Hearing none, this section is now closed. Any comments or questions by any of the council member? Hearing none, then a motion to adopt by Councilor Nguyen, second by Councilor Drinkwater. We need to adopt, and Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council Leahy? Yes. Council Mercier, Council Noon?
Yes.
Council Robinson?
Yes.
Council Rourke?
Yes.
Council Scott?
Yes.
Council Yem?
Yes.
Mayor Chow?
Yes.
Council Drinkwater?
Yes.
Council Getchia?
Yes.
Council Janess?
Yes.
10 yeas.
We now just continue on the agenda. We now go to the motion responses B on miniature shelter units. Any comments or questions, Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Chief Goldner's, he suggested a number of that we pick the date so that the chief governor can reach out to the vendor to, conduct this presentation in executive session. So, I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Mayor, and the clerk to set the date so that, then relay that message to Chief Governor, and Chief Governor then will schedule that. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, that's D. Okay. Councilor Nguyen, just for clarity, I think that's fine. We can take up D on the body worn camera. You did have another motion response on the military shelter, but on D, on the body worn camera, we will.
Got that.
Yeah.
My apology.
But that's okay. You save us time.
Mr. Mayor.
We will set a
the-
schedule for the executive session to have a presentation by.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
we'll
Thank
do
you. So with regard to the mini cabin, the manager office has tried to set up a tours of the Shattuck State Hospital for a small group, and then the director there, Kate Chang, also willing to do a presentation for the whole council. And I've been working with Paul Cadet and his group, who will try to raise, put together a team and to raise that money. The city just, it's not the city that raised the money, just the city is helping us to, to get out to arrange the tours to the, the Shattuck State Hospital, the shelter ground there. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the report.
Any other comments or questions on the miniature shelter? Councilor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to Ms. Fitzpatrick for the report and provides the video regarding some ideas of miniature pod for the unhoused population. My favorite would be the navigation center. They have it in California, but I also like the smaller unit called pallet. It's almost like a mini houses, particularly for families with children in transition from being homeless to be to wait for a permanent housing. While the navigation center is like a big tent operated by the city and with the staff and everything like that, that allow people to come in, and then shelters, there's no alarm, there's no time to wake up or anything like that, and there's a food that the unhoused can use like at home with the refrigerator. All of that are good. The question is, where do we put that? So that's a $1 million question right there. So if we can work together with our partners, National Park, they have some lands and stuff like that. In California, particularly, they were using a parking lot that owned by the city, and they set it up to help the unhoused population to get off the street into this particular it's a navigation center. And I think that's great if you can look at it and then explore more possibility. So that will be just my comment. I appreciate the report and the direction. So hopefully we look at that and then try to maybe implement some of it. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or questions on the miniature shelter? Hearing none, we now go to the next motion response C, which is on DEI policies from BPDA. The motion was requested by Councilor Nguyen and Councilor Jenness. Who would like to go first? Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, Mr. Mayor, we have the speakers, so I would defer to the speaker to go first.
There was a speaker registered, but he had a conflict and he's no longer registered.
Okay. Well, let me defer to Councilor Jenness.
Councilor Jenness?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I read through this report. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of good information in here, and a lot of stuff we need to lean into. For instance, there's some text in here about how DPD currently lacks the knowledge and expertise to really internalize a lot of these procedures, and looking for a way to possibly engage an outside firm to help with that. And I'm a little concerned that that we're kind of behind the 8 ball here, just because it seems like it presents a conflict with the city's existing equal opportunity employment statement, which states the city is committed to encouraging diversity and inclusion through equitable opportunities for all community members. The aim is for our workforce, including contractors, to be truly representative of all sections of society in our community, and for each member to feel respected while fostering belonging. So I think that including contractors bit says to me that we really got to pick up the ball and run with this information in this report, so that DPD can really be empowered to do it. It also comes back to me just screaming in my brain that this is yet another thing that would fall into the lap of the city's DEI officer. So I'd really like to see us move forward with that, because I think if we had a DEI officer or board, a commission, anything that could really kind of focus on these kind of issues and make sure we're moving the ball forward here. But I do appreciate the report. I appreciate that it's on the radar, and I look forward to seeing what we can do to move this forward, because I think there are some wins here that we can find. So, Mr. Manager, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on those comments. Thank you.
Mr. Manager? Yeah.
He could go first.
Oh, Councilor Nguyen, you would like to go also?
No.
Councilor Nguyen?
Manager can go first. Go ahead. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Council, you are correct. This is something that we will be moving forward, have been moving forward on. We just started our second DEI group moving forward. I have been talking with Middlesex Community College as well in regards to what our next steps with DEI are. We have discussed this with Department of Planning and Development in regards to how we can be more welcoming. There are some ideas that I don't think are ready for prime time at this point. What you were reading there is, I think, what everyone is used to doing, and putting it on the bottom of, let's say, reference letters about how we want to be inclusive. We want to make sure that people feel welcomed here, and I think at times that would check the box. But that's not happening here from this DPD as well as this administration. We're looking actively, and I've talked to a couple of the councils about this, is how can we create more of an opportunity with the MBE or the WBE when you're talking with the minority business enterprise out of Massachusetts, as well as the women business enterprise organization out of the Commonwealth of Mass. So from the administration standpoint, that's what we're focusing on right now. I hope that's answering the question you had asked me earlier. But as opposed to just saying we want to make sure, improve the fact that we have been, and we're looking forward to obviously some big things in the I probably would say in the months to come, especially now that ARPA, most people know that ARPA, we will be releasing things tomorrow. The council, I think, had a preview of that over the past few days. So there's some exciting things happening. I think ARPA is going to really help us to get to that next level.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I really do think that maybe we should take a look at this in a quarter from now, see where we're at, what steps we've been able to take, and, just kind of make sure we keep an eye on it moving forward. Thank you.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Janice, and the manager just mentioned it. I think also thanks for the report. I think the report kind of highlight the need to refocus on hiring that DEI officers, and I hope that we look in that area and that lens, because it seems to recognize that we are lack in that area. So having DEI officers will help move this along. Thank you.
Councilor Drinkwater?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the sponsors of this motion. Really good motion, really great response. And one thing I just wanted to add is that this response really focuses mainly on the procurement side of things and policy to encourage women and minority-owned businesses. But I just want to point out that in the city of Boston also, they have workforce goals in terms of participation for women and people of color in the workforce, and pushing contractors to meet those goals for what their workforce looks like. So I know the response mentions a disparity study, and I know that there have been disparity studies undertaken to look at, barriers to entry into the actual workforce, into the trades for certain demographics and populations. So just wanted to put that onto the radar also, that if we are, undertaking any kind of, disparity study, that we not only look at the procurement side of things, but also the workforce side of things, to see if there might be policy we could take on to make sure that our contractors are bringing a diverse workforce onto city projects as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or questions on this motion response? The next motion response, Councilor Noon already spoke on it on the body-worn camera, but does anybody have something to say on this? Councilor Gishia?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. Through you to the city solicitor, I think as we read it, and I don't know, maybe the maker of the motion would be okay with it. Is there a way to have this presentation done in public? I think there's a value there to have it done in public, and I just think that negotiations are already done. Most of this stuff is public record and can be done in public. So is there a reason why we couldn't have this? And if the maker of the motion is okay with it, that we would have this presentation done in public so people can understand how far we're going and what it actually is.
Absolutely, it should be done in public. I don't know of a reason why it wouldn't be.
If, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the maker of the motion, if he's okay with it, then can we have the presentation done in public?
So, question to Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Kuchia. I would too love to have it in open session like this, but I want to hear from the chief, because, from the chief, he mentioned earlier before the council meeting that some contractual issue, so maybe chief can speak to that. And if city solicitor says okay, so between the chief and the city solicitor to communicate, I'm open to that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Manager, just on that issue of whether it should go to executive session or not, but let me just clarify with Councilor Gishia. When you said public meeting, you don't mean the regular meeting. Would it be a subcommittee meeting, public safety, or would it be through a special meeting? Because it's going to take some time, we might not be able to do a regular meeting. So if it were to go the route of public meeting, what a special meeting or subcommittee meeting, is that what you have in mind?
I think if we're going to outline it in an executive session, it still would have been part of this meeting. So maybe we, 1 week, not have citations, and we can run it for the whole thing and try to get this thing in. It still would have been part of the regular meeting, so I just think that it's important that the public also sees this presentation, if possible. I don't know if the chief is here or not, but through you to the manager.
But, Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. If that's something that we can do, we definitely would. We would want everyone to know exactly how this deployment of this works. However, I think we just need to make sure, and I'm going to have to check on this on the collective bargaining side, to ensure that all the T's and I's are crossed on that. I am not sure if that collective bargaining piece has been settled or ratified at this time. So if that is the case, we would have to pause until that was completed.
If there's a piece in the collective bargaining that refrains us from doing it, could we be provided that? Because that's a public record also. I'm just trying to get this into the public so that everybody understands actually what this is, how far we've come as a police force and what we're trying to get to.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that we're following the proper procedure here. I think that this is something, once again, all the T's and I's could be crossed and dotted, which would be great. And if that is the case, I think that the public needs to know what happens in this manner or this situation when we're using a taser, or, excuse me, taser, apologize, the body camera, how exactly that works, and when it works and when it doesn't work. That would probably keep everyone from speculating that it's on or off all the time or part of the time, whatever the case may be. So I think it's a good idea, but I just want to make sure that we're all the T's and I's are crossed and dotted.
Yes, Councilor Gishia. So we'll just await from the city manager's report and discussion with the chief to see whether to go to public meeting or to executive session. Mr. Manager. Councilor Janess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question that, Mr. Manager, you may be able to answer or may require input from the PD, but do we actually physically have the body cameras at this point, or are we still awaiting them?
Yeah. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council, we're kind of going back and forth, as you can usually tell. I know everything has been executed, and I believe we're still waiting for the physical item, if you would. So once again, everything has been executed. That has gone back and forth. That was quite a few months ago, I believe. But I would have to check with the superintendent to see if they've actually been delivered.
Okay, thank you. I'd be interested to know that, because I understand that there is a supply chain issue with these right now, because a lot of departments are bringing them on. So might be helpful for us and the public to know just where we are time frame wise on that. You know, if it's going to be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, just so everybody's aware. And I'd like to echo Councilor Gitcher's sentiment that, you know, we should devote time of our meeting to this. I think this is an extremely relevant thing across the community. And if we were to do it in an executive session, that would be this meeting time too, just not with the cameras on. So I think we should do it in front of as many people as possible. Thank you.
And
Councilor Rourke?
Yeah, I was just saying, I have no problem having a public safety subcommittee meeting. If it comes back from the manager that, you know, we're good to go, you can schedule it next Tuesday, the Tuesday after, as soon as possible.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quick in response to Councilor Janess. I spoke to Chief Goldner earlier that the soft roll out going to be, starting very soon. He's anticipated 30 body cameras going to come in, and that's going to go about a year in training, sort of, where you also, just recently, we did hire a digital specialist who, doing that work. And so after maybe a year or so, and then the full rollout is going to happen, and that's what the chief indicated to me earlier before the meeting. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this motion response? Hearing none, that completes the motion responses. We're now going to go to the information reports from the city manager's office. We'll start on the free cash certification and recommendation. Mr. Manager or Mr. CFO?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council, there's an informational item under the city manager's communications that is a companion piece to vote number 6.6. Later on in the agenda, this is a brief description of the free cash appropriation, the recommendation that's before the city council this evening. For use of free cash, our total at the end of the last fiscal year was $7.86 million that has been certified by the Department of Revenue. I'm happy to answer any questions or give a short description as to free cash and the process if that's what the council desires, but I'll leave it up to the body.
Any comments or questions by the councilor? Councilor Gitcher?
Thank you. Through you to the CFO. Mr. Baldwin, can we have a breakdown of the $5,832,760 and which accounts they came from? Could we get a munis report or what accounts had those funds, where they came from to get to that number?
Mr. Connor?
Sure. We can absolutely provide additional information. I believe you're referring to the total unencumbered, unexpended appropriations. So we can give you a year-end report for FY22. It's the aggregate total of every amount that was left, but that's absolutely a report we can provide.
So if funding came out of, say, police department personnel, we would get that number, whatever the number is that came out of that line item, and just break it down that way so that we would know exactly how we got to this $5,832,000 number.
Mr. Connor?
Yes, that's correct. So what I envision we would provide is a year-to-date report for year-end of FY 2022. The unencumbered, unexpended balance is for all accounts. So just as a note for the audience or the listening folks at home, that's both the city side and the school side. And this is a standard procedure under the laws of the Commonwealth. At the end of the year, the auditor provides the balance sheet to the Department of Revenue, and then all of those amounts are certified pursuant to a calculation that takes into account any deficits in special revenue funds, capital project funds, etc., and then an amount is certified by the Department of Revenue of an available balance. That balance is available for appropriation by the legislative body. That is the recommendation that the administration is making this evening.
Thank you.
Who was asked? Go ahead, Councilor Janess.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate this report. I wrote down a couple notes, a couple questions on some of these planned expenditures. So I'd just like to throw them out now. First one is the legal department. It's a pretty sizable transfer for professional services, and I understand there's a lot going on up there, and there's a lot of expense that needs to be covered. My only question is, do we expect this to be it for the year, or are we expecting more up there? And if so, where's that going to come from, or maybe that's something we answer later.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Council, we're hoping that would be it, but I can't sit here and tell you that it will be.
Okay. Also, I wonder if this is, because of this transfer, I wonder if I can ask to make a motion for us to schedule an executive session for a litigation update. Normally I know that we do that in January, but took some time for the new solicitor to come on board. I think it's time for us to run through that as a group and just understand where we are. So I'd like to make that motion if that's amenable to my colleagues.
Motion by Councilor Janas to go into executive session on the update report, second by Councilor Gishia. Motion is adopted. Any other, Councilor Nguyen?
I still have some more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, more questions, Councilor Janas, go
Yep,
ahead.
Thank you. I noticed there's a significant expenditure for covering damages from the LHS flood, which occurred in June of 21. We're here almost 2 years later, so I'm just a little curious as to why it took so long for us to cover those expenses, and what they are. Are they structure? Are they contents of the building? There's not a whole lot of detail in terms of what that expenditure is.
Mr. Connor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to answer your question, Councilor, the $94,626 that's being recommended as an appropriation from free cash is the remaining deficit related to the flood. So I'll offer an explanation here. When the flood occurred, there's a specific statute that allows for communities to spend in deficit and begin a special revenue fund related to costs that are expected to have insurance claims for them. So the city, working with our insurance agent and the law department at the time, we pursued a number of claims. There were some donations that were also received. Several of them were discussed in the media. But the net deficit that was remaining after all of the claims were paid by the insurance company, the difference between that and the total cost was the $94,000. So in order to resolve that final deficit, we need an appropriation. This is an available balance, so this will close it out and it will kind of put an end to that story. I can't necessarily say that this $94,000 is related to damaged materials or structural damage per se. It is just the remaining deficit after all claims were reimbursed. I believe if we tried to match up the records, we could probably come close to saying that this is related to this because we did not receive insurance reimbursement for a particular component of the claim. I just don't have that information right here in front of me, Councilor.
Thank you. I wonder if you could provide that. And the only reason I'm asking is it's my understanding that we as the city are responsible for the building and the functionality of the building. So anything structure-wise or repairing the plumbing, et cetera, is on us. But the actual content inside the building is the school department. So I would expect that those expenditures would come out of their budget. I could be wrong on that. I'd be happy to hear how you read that. But I just want to make sure the money that we're transferring out of free cash to cover the expenditures is covering city expenditures.
Mr. Connor?
I do believe that to be the case, Councilor. I'm happy to follow up with some additional information. We'll go back, discuss this with our insurance agent. As memory serves, the majority of the personal property that was damaged was musical equipment, for which there was a large donation that was received, which covered a good portion of replacement of that. But again, I'm happy to go back with a fine-tooth comb and let you know exactly what that was.
Thank you. Just just curious on that. Changing gears, the next question is about the grant funding deficits. Could you provide a little explanation as to what those deficits are? Are they situations in which the funder didn't pony up the cash that we expected, or are they situations in which the city didn't meet their obligations under the grants? Just curious where that hole came from.
Mr. Connor?
Yes, thank you for the question. The grant deficits, which this year, this is a normal occurrence that happens each year with free cash. Excuse me. We try to close up any remaining deficits in grant funds. These particular ones this year, some are related to school department grants, and each individual special revenue fund for grants is special and particular. Oftentimes what happens is either an expense is miscoded to a grant, and then the entirety of the reimbursements are received by either the school district or the department that's managing the grant. And then oftentimes what happens is there's personnel changes, time goes by, there's a deficit that's remaining for multiple years. You can see in the schedule, some of these go back to 2012, some of these go back to 2011, 2021 in other cases. And so, myself and the auditor worked together to identify a number of these deficits that were still remaining. Each one of them has its own individual story. Sometimes it's that expenses that the department thinks may have been eligible under the grant may have been deemed ineligible. And if there is not time within the fiscal period to, I'm getting really in the weeds here, but to like journal entry that to a general fund expenditure account, then it has to remain there as a deficit in the special revenue fund pursuant to the rules of the Department of Revenue. And so the only way to clear out that deficit is through an appropriation of free cash. It's a best practice for us to try to clean up the books at the end of the year with this available fund, and that is the reason why we're proposing this as part of the appropriation.
Okay, thank you. I think there may be an opportunity there going forward to try and clean that up so that we aren't backfilling grants with free cash. But as you said, it's always a challenge, and there's every grant has got its own conditions, and everything we're covering here has its own unique story. So I do expect that this will be something we continue to do year after year, but I do think it's somewhere where we can potentially have a savings. So it's something where we should focus on that a little more, I think. My last question, I have two more. One is the additional funds for the city census, the postage for the city census, annual census, and then we're transferring $72,000, I think it was, to cover that postage. And the question is, why wasn't that budgeted? If it's something we do annually, I would think that should be something that's already baked into the budget.
Mr. Connor?
Yeah. This was a request that came to us via the law department for additional funding. I think it had to do with unanticipated costs that may not have been foreseen at the time that the budget was set. But that's the extent to which it was a request that came to us for supplemental funding. This is a supplemental funding source, and so it's a way to provide for that. The city census is a requirement, but that's all I know about that.
Okay. I'd be a little curious to know if that expenditure has increased over the past year and that's the reason for this, or if this is something that was a one-time thing just so we can be sure we bake it into the next budget cycle. But all this stuff comes back to the OPEB line item, which, as stated in the memo, we are missing that 5% goal of funding the OPEB liability. And there's a lot of little things where, we're throwing money here and there because we have to or we need to or it was requested. But I know the OPEB funding has been a priority for previous councils. It's something that I think we should continue to work towards fully funding every year. So I have to ask that, next year, as we look towards the next budget year and the next free cash reconciliation, I really think we got to put OPEB as almost the top priority on a lot of this stuff. Because with inflation and everything else, how the prices are going up everywhere, and if we're already behind the 8 ball on OPEB, it's only going to get worse if we don't fund it appropriately. So I think it's important to maintain that going forward, and I just wanted to say that out loud. Thank you.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, CFO Baldwin, for the report. Very detailed. Appreciate it. I have just two questions actually around the issues of, one, you to speak on the appropriation for the fire department. Could you break it down in terms of the new recruit and the others like fuel and also the opiate crisis? So can you break down on that and for this all costs here?
Mr. Connor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So, Councilor, in response to your question, there are two recommended appropriations within the free cash aggregate total. One for fire department new recruit charges, which we would put into the fire department's operating budget. And this is a component of our strategy to accelerate the hiring of additional firefighters to the ranks. As we've discussed here at previous meetings, the department has struggled to get recruits into the Massachusetts Fire Academy. There is no cost for that, but there is a significant lag time, and that is something that COVID has exacerbated, that most departments, fire departments throughout the Commonwealth are struggling with. But there is an opportunity to sort of fast track some of the recruits into the Boston Fire Academy, but there's a cost, and it's $5,000 per recruit. So the manager and my office have worked with the fire department to identify free cash as an available source to fund that in order to accelerate bringing on, I believe it's 6 firefighters to the ranks, which will at the same time address some of the overtime challenges in the department. One, the second question that you asked was about the opioid reduction program. This is a new it's a new revenue source. So there was a settlement, and folks may be familiar with this, with some of the large pharmaceutical companies. And the city was party to that lawsuit, and by way of the settlement, some monies were allocated to all of those communities, Lowell being one of them. It's something that we've discussed a number of times here in this council chambers. That money, there was legislation proposed that did not make it through to the final budget that would have allowed municipalities to account for this in a special revenue fund. But because that legislation at the state level didn't pass, we have to let it flow through as a local receipt and flow through to free cash. We have just received our first payment within this fiscal year. It would not be available to us otherwise until next year when that free cash is certified. But in order to accelerate our ability to fund some of these expenses related to opioid reduction programs in the health department, in the fire department, et cetera, the purchase of Narcan and other medical supplies, we're sort of advancing the funding for those programs using free cash from last year.
Thank you very much, and I think I can speak to for all my councilor here. Is happy to see that the chief took step to send new recruit to the academy, Boston Academy. The cost of $5,000 per individual, it's well worth for the safety, the life of a resident here in Lowell. Another question I have for you regarding the parking enterprise. We pay $2.8 million FY23, I think. FY21 this is right around there. So what is your prediction for FY24 parking enterprise?
Mr. Connor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So another component of the plan and one of the larger appropriation recommendations is to replenish the stabilization fund for funds that were appropriated just a few months ago into the parking stabilization. At the same time that free cash is certified, the Department of Revenue also certifies the retained earnings for the enterprise funds, parking, water, and sewer. Our year-end retained earnings certification is better than what we expected. So last year wasn't quite as bad as we had originally anticipated. And so we're taking a new look at the rate proposal that we've discussed both here and at the subcommittee level with these revised certifications in mind to see if we're able to scale back some of those proposed increases. However, the major expense on the horizon is the debt service related to the Hamilton Canal Garage. So we're still proceeding with caution because if the revenue does not rise to meet those expenditures, it will continue to draw on the fund balance. But the bottom line of all of that is it's better than we expected, and so we're taking another look at the rate proposals, and we'll be back to talk to the Finance Subcommittee about those soon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question to the CFO. When you highlighted in your presentation, you said that it was, the OPEB was slightly less than the 5%. How much less than the 5% is it?
Mr. Connor?
I'm sorry, give me 1 second here.
It should be page 4 of the handout.
So 5% would be $390,000.
How do we, where does that number come from? I'm just trying to learn
Sure.
this at the same time. Is how do we, what is it 5% of? You know, where does that number come from?
Mr. Connor?
That's an excellent question, and I'm happy to expand on that. The 5% is a component of the city's OPEB funding policy. So in the city's policy, and this is, I believe, what Councilor Janess was referring to, and this is a best practice in municipal finance, it is our goal to appropriate 5% of our free cash total every year into the OPEB trust fund. As we mentioned here, and as Councilor Janess just referred to a moment ago, we're appropriating slightly less than that this year. And I will just add for context for the council's edification, the number that we're chasing, the OPEB liability, and we'll bring that forward when the FY22 audit is complete, is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And the amount that we have in the OPEB trust is maybe $12 or $13 million. So orders of magnitude, we have a very long way to go to fully fund our OPEB liability. It is certainly our intent moving forward to meet our 5% goal. But I'm just making a comment here that we have a very long way to go. There are a number of other things that municipalities can consider in terms of building in an appropriation into the budget every year. But this is something that the rating agencies look to favorably when we discuss the ratings when we sell debt, is our funding policy, meeting our funding policy, and then the amount that we have in the OPEB trust.
So the number of the 214,693 is 2.7% of the free cash. So it's not slightly less than 5%, it's a good margin less. So I just want to point out that that is 2.3% less than what the goal is. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Leahy?
Excuse me. Do we have any registered speakers on this one, 6-6?
Mr. Clerk, do we have any? No, we're still on 5.2.
Move to approve.
Oh, all right, all right.
Okay.
We were kind of jumping around, okay, sorry.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I guess we can take up on items that have registered speaker after the informational reports. We have one more report. Any other comments on this one? Move to approve. One more information report. This is on Community Preservation Act funding request. We'll have Mr. CFO make a quick summary, and then we'll open the floor to any comments or questions. Mr. Connor? Building Services? Okay, please.
How are you doing tonight? So the informational is on the recommendations from the Community Preservation Committee for this year's CPA funds. Each of the applications is outlined in...
I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt real quick. If you lift up the microphone a little bit so I can hear you better. Thank you.
Each of the applications is outlined in the attachments. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Last year there was presentations before the subcommittee, and we're also happy to coordinate that with applicants if council.
Councilor Kishia?
Could I make a motion to send this to the Joint Finance and Neighborhood Subcommittee?
A motion by Councilor Kishia, second by Councilor Robinson. Motion is adopted. It's going to go Councilor Leahy and then Councilor Yam.
Yep, just a quick question. Were all the monies handed out from last year, though? I'm understanding there's a few that aren't handed out, so I'm wondering what When's last year's process gonna wrap up?
So the majority of the grant agreements have all been executed, and applicants have been given notice to proceed. So that's will depend on when the applicants from last year send in their invoices, and we can process them.
All right, through you to the manager, just maybe after the meeting or tomorrow or something, there's a holdup on the First Baptist Church, so if we just get a report on what's going on with that. Thank you.
Councillor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question regarding the allocation of funds from the CPA for certain project. What if the project does not go forward? Will that CPA money that allocate for that specific project, particularly from last year, will come back to the CPA? That will be my question. And the reason I'm asking this because I know that 21 West Adams Street project that the CTI was proposed and approved for, it may not be going forward. So the question is that will the CPA get that money back? Thank you.
Mr. CFO, Development Service would like to answer that, or who does have an answer?
My understanding is that yes, money that isn't allocated or for a project that doesn't move forward would return to the CPA fund for future expenditure.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Three to the council. So, Councilor, if that money, it can be adopted this evening, but if the project doesn't move forward, then that money would revert back to the CPA fund.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just follow up, for this year allocation for all these projects are worthwhile project. I, for one, will vote to support it. It's a great project, but my question is that previous year the council, approved these projects, and I understand that one project is not going forward, and the question is that will that money come back to the CPA for other future projects? That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, Mr. Manager? Mr. CFO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if projects from prior years are not completed for whatever reason, the money would retain and stay with the Community Preservation Fund. But in order to be reappropriated for another project, it would have to go back to the Community Preservation Committee and then come back to the council. So both, under the statute for the Community Preservation Act, both bodies are appropriating authorities for those funds.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, a motion to adopt the acceptance placed on the file by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Robinson. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. We now go to item 5.3. This is
Your Honor, are we gonna suspend the rules so?
Okay, Councilor Leahy, do you want to suspend the rule? And Mr. Clerk, in order on the agenda, which the first one that coming up that
5.4. 5.4.
5.4?
I don't have any registered speaker on 5.4. The
You do
first
not.
order is 6.3.
The appointment is here for 5.4. She's here.
5.4. Do we have a registered speaker for 5.4?
The appointment is here.
The appointments, okay. Okay, I see. 5.4, so it's Councilor Leahy to take 5.4 out of order, second by Councilor Janice. 5.4, communication, appointment of Allison Dolan Wilson to Planning Board. Motion to adopt by Councilor Nguyen, second by Councilor Yam. Mr. Manager, would you like to introduce her or have?
You need a roll call.
We would like to meet
Would you like
her.
to say something first before we do roll call?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Wilson, would you like to come up and just introduce yourself to the council, please?
Okay. We'll have Mr. Clerk do a roll call, please, and then we'll have you say something. Mr. Clerk?
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercier. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Amir Chow.
Yes.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janice.
Yes.
That's 10 yeas.
Ms. Dolan Wilson?
Great, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity. Proud to serve the city of Lowell, and thank you so much for having me on board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions by any of the member? Hearing none. Which is the next item that has a registered speaker, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Manager, we have a lot that's on the votes. I think if we could just go through the votes, there's
Okay, all right.
there's on the votes now, and then there's some after the votes, but if you want the votes.
Just go in order of on the agenda then. 5.3 is the communication. Planning Board recommendation zoning amendment of off-street parking, DMU zoning district. Any comments or questions? Mr. Manager, do you have any things to say or any comments or questions by anyone?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Robinson.
Which number?
This is 5.3.
5.3?
5.3. We just skipped that one to go to 5.4, so this is 5.3, Councilor. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, the ayes have it, motion's carried.
Mr. Manager, there's votes for 6.3, 6.4, and 6.6 that are registered speakers on.
Okay, so we'll skip 6.1, so 6.3, 6.4. And what's the other one?
6.6.
6.6. Okay, we'll start with 6.3. Need a motion to suspend the rules and take these three items out of order by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Robinson. 6.3 is the vote authorize city manager to execute temporary access agreement with Edward Page Corporation. Waive full reading and second reading by title. Okay. City of Lowell and the City Council vote authorizing the city manager to execute a temporary access agreement between the City of Lowell and Edward Page Corporation relative to property located at 3905-86 containing the Leo A. Roy parking facility at the southeast corner of the adjacent surface parking lot near the Pawtucket Canal Industrial Canyon in the City of Lowell. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Leahy. Any comments?
There's a registered speaker, George Little. Mr. Little's from the National Parks. He just called, and I think he was just, there was a change that was made to the vote, and it was done by the Law Department already regarding the dates on that. The change has been made, so it's all right to go forward, and the change is made in the Law Department. Okay. Mr. Little was here to speak on that, but I think is he here?
No. That's right here.
Good evening, everyone. So basically, we were just asking for change of dates for 6.3 and 6.4. 6.3 is the contractor is using the area that they were requesting temporary access for March 15th through June 30th. And on 6.4, that's a different contractor, just a month, February 21st through March 21st.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to comment on.
Good, thank you.
Move for approval.
Would you approve? Do you have comments, Councilor Janess?
Just a quick question.
Janess?
I'm not sure if this is for the city manager or for Mr. Little, but could we just get a brief overview of what this project is and what the goals are here, just so the public's aware of what we're trying to do here? Thank you.
If you could explain, if you could speak closer to the microphone, that'd be great.
Okay, so 6.3 is a temporary access agreement with Edward Page. That's the contractor we're going to replace the cantilevered walkway between Central Street, and it goes alongside the backside of the condominiums. It's cantilevered out over the canal, and it ends on the other side of the condominiums. And so city property is that parking lot and adjacent to the parking garage. So they just need a lay-down area. So that's that project.
Okay, great. And this is entirely a national park project, correct? There's no city involvement in this other than granting of the easement?
No, there's no project done by the cities. It's all NPS. In fact, it's, in some of this is corroborating existing agreements that we already have. For instance, the one on 55 Kearney Square is to repair the roof of the lower locks. That's simply to access the property that's abutting Middlesex College, and that's the only way they can actually access the lower locks. And that property is ours, but it's an existing agreement nevertheless.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Gishia, do you have a comment on that, or just you want a second, Councilor Leahy, to move? Second, so that was by Leahy, second by Councilor Gishia. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please, on 6.3.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia. Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Yem.
Yes.
Mayor Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Yes.
Counsel Getchia.
Yes.
Counsel Janess.
Yes.
That's 10 yeas.
Thank you. The next vote is 6.4, vote to authorize city manager execute temporary access agreement with Henry General Contractors, Inc. Waive full reading, second reading by title. Is it this one here?
Yep, move for approval.
City of Lowell and the City Council vote authorizing the city manager to execute a temporary access agreement between the City of Lowell and Henry General Contractors, Inc. relative to property located at 55 Kearney Square, Lowell, Massachusetts. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Drinkwater, second by Councilor Gishia. Any comments and questions? I believe you spoke on it already. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia. Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Yem.
Yes.
Mayor Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Yes.
Counsel Getchia.
Yes.
Counsel Janess.
Yes.
10 yeas.
Okay, the next item that was taken out of order for a vote 6.6, vote fiscal year 22, free cash certification recommendation, waive full reading and second reading by title. As you all know, this is National Reading Month, so I'm doing a lot of reading today. City of Lowell and the City Council vote that the amount of $7,860,448 be appropriated. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Noon. Any comments or questions by anyone? Yes, the registered speaker. Mr. Clerk.
Jackie Doherty.
Ms. Doherty, welcome to the City Council meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for your time tonight. I know you have a packed agenda, so I'll be brief. My name is Jackie Doherty. I live at 415 Pawtucket Street in Lowell, and I'm vice chair of the Lowell School Committee. It was actually 20 years ago when I first spoke in these chambers to the council regarding help for our schools. At that time, I was the leader on the citywide parent council. After 5 years serving that group, I ran for school committee, and I've been serving as a school committee member for 15 plus years. I believe I've earned credibility as someone who is motivated to act and do what is best for the education of our children and moving our schools forward. I stand before you tonight instead of spending Valentine's Day with my husband because I am compelled by 2 items on your agenda. And if the mayor prefers, I could just speak to the first one, but I think it would be more time efficient to let me talk to both. But the first item is item 6.6, to transfer $669,320.75 to the Law Department for professional services. I don't recall ever seeing a transfer that large to the Law Department, and in reviewing the last 5 years, I was not able to find anything even close to it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I couldn't find it. And I don't mention this as criticism. I'm not here tonight to tell you how to spend your money on legal services. I recognize the city's law department has been depleted since November, and actually it probably started before then. The school committee has experienced it firsthand. On the advice of the previous city solicitor, we have attempted to hire outside counsel to investigate internal complaints regarding school hiring practices since December 7th, when a joint motion was removed from our agenda without authorization. After we were told by the law department in early December that they did not have the bandwidth to do the investigation, we asked for assistance identifying outside counsel and providing a scope of services based on the city solicitor's letter explaining her concerns. We then had many many more meetings, as the mayor knows, over several weeks. But we still did not receive the information required. I'm here to tell you, as someone motivated to do what is right by this district always, the school committee must get a timely, objective, and thorough report to investigate these allegations. Despite what some are trying to spin or use as distractions, the fact that there are several allegations of wrongdoing is not in dispute. We have been told by our former city solicitor, who served this city for 27 years. I have personally heard issues of concern, as have most of my colleagues, including statements that have been made publicly, and I quote, by Eileen Del Rossi, major, major concerns. We have already experienced delays and interferences that span 2 months. By law, we have the right to hire whatever attorney we choose. Why should we go outside? Why should we be compelled to not go outside when the city itself is using outside services to meet its legal needs? That's my comment on item 6.6. Would you like me to speak on the next item, or would you like me to come back? It's like one paragraph.
Protocol
Item
to speak one item?
6.6 is the only one taken out of order.
Okay, okay, we'll just speak on the 6.6, right?
I'm sorry?
We're only going to speak on the item 6.6
Okay.
right now.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Any other registered speaker, Mr. Clerk?
No.
Any comments or questions by any of the councilors? Councilor Gishia?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. Through you to the city solicitor, I'm just confused by the way this vote is drawn up. Is this a transfer vote, or is this certified? Because it says by 2/3. Normally, transfers are majority. So I guess through you to the solicitor, how this is drawn up, is this a certification of free cash?
Can you
This
show me
vote?
what you're pointing to? I don't have it in front of me.
On 6.6?
So it's, maybe Mr. CFO would be readily answer the question. Councilor Gishia? Mr. CFO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the transfer is it's an appropriation from free cash, which is a component of the undesignated fund balance, which, as we discussed in the informational item earlier, once it's certified by the Department of Revenue, it's available for appropriation. This is the traditional form of the vote. And so it is the schedule that accompanies the vote is a transfer into a number of different budgetary accounts. Those are all provided for in the schedule. I hope that answers your question.
Do transfers need a 2/3 vote? I thought it was majority on transfers. That's what I'm asking the city solicitor. Is it, for transfers, is it a 2/3 vote, or is it majority? So then who drew up this authorized vote?
Through Mr. Manager to Madam Solicitor, or are you aware of the language in the vote? Okay. Council, it'd be something that we can get to you maybe after the
Well, it's
meeting?
procedural. I guess we would have to ask the clerk if the city solicitor don't know. Because is it a 2/3 vote, or is it a majority on this transfer? That's really the question. Most transfers are majority, right?
Transfers, council in the past have always been, and the vote comes down, I don't draft these votes, they come down, it's a 2/3. Transfers is consistently, I've been here, have been 2/3 votes.
Okay.
Any transfer.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Rook?
Just in my experience, I would agree with that. It's a 2/3 vote.
Any other comments or questions? The line item. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yum.
Yes.
Mayor Chow.
Yes.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess.
Yes.
10 yeas.
I'm made aware of that there are two more items that have registered speaker, which is item 9.8 and 9.12. Need a motion to take it out of order by Councilor
Yeah, we're
Leahy.
still out of, we're still
Second
out
by-
of, we're still on.
Second by Councilor Nguyen. Since Ms. Doherty was on the path to speaking on 9.12, I'm going to go 9.12 first and then 9.8. Item 9.12, Councilor Nguyen, Councilor Robinson requests myself, the mayor, to urge the Lowell School Committee to withhold retaining outside counsel for 6 weeks to enable the city law department to investigate any possible claims. Mr. Clerk, please call the registered speaker.
Jackie Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not going to, you all know who I am. I was just here. Regarding this motion, by law, we have the right to hire whatever attorney we choose. This motion is outside the purview of the council. In addition, I am deeply disturbed by why we would delay further. As I had mentioned in my previous comments, we have been through 2 months of trying to do something that many communities do. We are the same family, right? The school department, the city, we're a department of the city. And often, when you have internal allegations like we have, cities go and towns go outside where there's a firewall where you can get objective third-party review. It doesn't mean the allegations are going to be borne out. We don't know until we find the truth. But we have delayed this for 2 months. We need to move forward. And I would, in addition to that, and I want to be careful how I say this because I mean no disrespect to anyone. I understand how difficult this job is from the school perspective. As I mentioned, I've been doing it for 15 plus years. I know it's a lot of time, and I know many people come with best intentions. But I am concerned by the appropriateness of a motion that attempts to delay an investigation that has already been delayed, and I would say predominantly because of the law department, and that's no fault of the new city solicitors. She just came in the last few weeks. But when one of the makers of the motion has a close family member hired under the current school administration, I believe there's a perception of a conflict of interest there. And I'm concerned about that. We are a city that wants to move forward. The schools are an integral part of our ability to succeed. We know that. And I know Councilor Vesna-Noon knows that as well, how important good schools are to the future of the city. So I would ask if you would please remove this motion because it's not appropriate. And it is not in the what is the word? It is not in the impetus of moving forward for the best of our district, which is to get to the truth. And if it's not decided to be removed, I would kindly, respectfully ask my colleagues not to support it. And in closing, I would just like to say, Mayor, through you to the city manager, could we ask that the city solicitor attend our meeting tomorrow night where there is a motion to consider looking at a further delay, which I'll tell you right off I'm not compelled to do, if she could be available because I have questions. But thank you very much for your time. Again, I apologize for the delay. Bye.
Mr. Clerk, are there any more registered speaker?
No, they're not.
Okay, we have two make of the motions in this one, Councilor Nguyen and Councilor Robinson. Who would like to go first?
Let me defer to Councilor Robinson, and then I'll follow.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. Again, this motion is a good motion. I stand by this motion. I'm familiar with some of the stuff that's going on, and I can tell you, rest assured, there's been due diligence carried out in a process that's in place already. So wish lists and witch hunts is something that I'm not looking to entertain at this point. I think it's only fair with a new legal department and with new information surfacing recently that at the very least, out of respect, if we're really talking about moving things forward and doing things the right way, it's a no-brainer. Let's give our law department some time to investigate. If whatever ends up coming at the end of that investigation, we can have this conversation again. But in light of recent information that surfaced all over multiple media sites, I think it's only right we give the legal team here time to investigate before we start looking at incredible amounts of money being spent. And we've all heard the price tags. Again, I've heard there's $5 million free cash or whatever sitting in an account on the school side, but yet we're struggling to heat classrooms. So if there's money floating around, that's a great thing. Before we dedicate to potential expenditures on our end, I say it's only fair we allow our people the time needed to investigate what's going on, and then we can come back with an educated decision, not just an opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do share Vice Chair of School Committee Jackie Doherty's frustration, because she said it, that the law department, I wasn't there, I didn't hear anything, I don't know anything. The law department looked into allegation in November. So it's been a long time. So I share that frustration. I also agree with, not just on the school side, Vice Chair of the School Committee, Jackie Doherty, but I share the stand that everyone in the school department share that it's responsibility. The responsibility of the body is to look into it, to find out, right? But finding out, there is a process that one has to follow, especially adult. Because a lot of children watching, when we start skipping the process, then we set precedent. And that's my concern. And that's when the last council meeting, Councilor Kuchia brought up motion around that. I agree. Let's look into it. From what I learned, the last council meeting, Mr. Mayor, and Madam Solicitor too, is that we don't have anything. But I heard today there is something. So if there is something, then look into it. It is or it is not. Is there a possible claim? Then look into it. That's responsibility of the school committee member. And there is a process that we have to follow. We cannot, should not cherry pick things because we feel like it or because we have some interest in it. And that's why this motion filed. And this motion filed by no way telling the school committee to do what this council wants them to do, just urging. It's your prerogative, go ahead, do it. But then again, at the end of the day, who's liable? Taxpayer. City gonna have to pay for whatever come along with it. What's to hurt? This has been waiting for 5 years, 5 months already. A month from now, giving that city solicitor opportunity to review it, to find out. That shouldn't hurt at all. I'm just asking. I hope the school committee members, hear us. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, Councilor Rook?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I first saw the motion, I thought, I don't know if we have any purview in this, but in reading it, it just requests you, to bring to the school committee, urging, the request of 6 weeks, just to let the law department do their due diligence. You are only one vote on the school committee, but you also represent us as well. So I have no problem with the motion as read. Thank you.
Does somebody raise their hand? Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also will support the motion. It does urge the Lowell School Committee to withhold retaining outside counsel. It's not a demand in any way. It's asking them to do so. What seems missing to me in this whole discussion is reasonable cause why we're hiring outside counsel. It just hasn't been brought forward. I asked the question whether or not there were any internal documents that the city solicitor had, and the response to that was no. I understand that there's grievances filed. I was on the school committee as well. There's always grievances filed. They go through the process with UTL, and they are settled or not settled. So I feel like at this point, we just don't have the reason. I don't know if we can reach out to the former city solicitor and find out if these documents exist someplace that we don't know about. That's my only suggestion that we could do moving forward. But what I don't think we should be doing is hiring an attorney when we don't have any cause to do so. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I'm not going to support this. I think that when we start crossing the lines of this council telling the school committee what to do, it's wrong. We can't influence the zoning board, the other boards in the city, and whatever word you want to use, urge, demand, tell, you're setting a precedent, and we cannot interfere with school committee agenda items. It's their prerogative. They feel this is necessary to hire outside legal counsel. That's up to them. They have a budget every year. We can't tell them how to spend it. They can't come over here and tell us how to spend our city budget. They're elected. If people don't like it, they'll do it at the voting box in November. But for us to play games with words and to say that we're not influencing, we are. It's a school committee item. It's a school committee business. They should be able to handle it on their own without the advice or the influence of the city council. Thank you.
Councilor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, for one, support this motion simply to allow our new solicitor to understand all what's going on in the case, because Councilor Scott said, and I agree, that we asked her and she said she could not find any record of it. So to allow the new solicitor time to review and come back with, as far as influencing or telling the school committee what to do, I don't think that's the intention of this motion at all. And I thank you.
Councilor Drinkwater?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am of somewhat two minds here on this motion, because I do agree with a lot of what has been said, that, you know, the school committee has its own authority and can really do what it wants to do in this particular situation. However, this motion is now under discussion on this council, so I do feel the need to weigh in, because from watching from afar, or a member of this council or a member of the public, and just observing the school committee proceedings, I do find the process here very unusual. And I do agree with the sentiments behind this motion and what has been expressed by the city solicitor, which is just a desire to take the time to investigate what is being alleged here. And I just want to make sure I'm clear, because this came up last week, and I just want to make sure I understand it. And to you, Mr. Mayor, does the school committee have any awareness of the nature of these allegations? Accepting, I know there's been some things that have come out publicly in recent days. I know that's just one of several things that have come up, but does the school committee, or through you to the city solicitor, to this date have just any idea of the nature of what's being alleged in these claims?
Thank you, Councilor, for the question. Not really answer all these things from the school committee side. That could be done through a motion from report from superintendent or from from city manager. But I would say that the information that you've heard either through your colleagues or in the social media is that we do not have anything in writing through maybe a couple communication by our current city solicitor with the former solicitor. So, and Madam Solicitor, you could confirm as of today, you have not had any material evidence from the former city solicitor. Is that correct?
I've had no she hasn't given me any information. She didn't leave any information, and when I spoke with her, she didn't give me any information I could use. So, no, I've received no information from her.
Okay. So it is a situation that until something happened, maybe through progress, I'm sorry, Ms. Doherty, we're not going to have the exchange of conversation here. So we're just trying to answer Councilor
But there is
Drinkwater.
the email from the former city solicitor. That is in writing, and that clearly spells out what the concerns were. And I believe that, like I said when I started, I have a certain credibility. I would hope the former city solicitor does as well. We have something in writing. Thank you.
So the email does not refer to any names or information of type of complaint. It's just that a general letter, email that's stating that there were complaints.
Thank you for clarifying. And again, it's a highly unusual situation in which it seems that the one employee of the city who was made aware of the specific nature of what's being alleged is no longer an employee of the city, and there seems to be a very large information gap in terms of the nature of what's being alleged. So to me, it does seem unusual that this move would be made to investigate from the outside without even knowing the specific nature, only that it was one person's opinion. That might be the route to go. So from the beginning, I just feel it's been somewhat convoluted. I'm also aware that, again, this is really under the purview of a separate public body, but again, it's here, we're discussing it, and I think the requests that have been made to simply allow the new city solicitor to investigate the nature of this and to communicate that to the members of the school committee is a reasonable one. So, with that, I do intend to support the motion that's on the floor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, could you tell me how many attorneys in the law department we currently have on staff and how many positions, attorney positions are in the budget?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Currently, right now, we have 4 attorneys on staff, and we have budgeted for 8.
Thank you. So we're currently running at 50% staffing up there. Through you to the city solicitor, do you think at 50% staffing you have the bandwidth to be able to do this investigation quickly?
Mr. Manager? Through Mr. Manager to Madam Solicitor?
We will try to do it. It's going to be a little tight because we're all stretched doing the work that we're doing, but we understand that it's important to do. People want to know the results of it, so we're committed to getting it done.
Thank you. I think I don't think that we as the city council should be stepping in here and telling the school department, or sorry, the school committee how to handle this investigation. I know nothing about this investigation other than what I read in the paper, and I'm sure others as well. So if the school committee knows more than I do, and that's why they've gone forward trying to hire an outside firm to do this investigation, I don't see why that should be stopped. I understand that we're not stopping the investigation. We're just asking you, Mr. Mayor, to not support it. However, I really think that the school committee needs to make this decision and not us. And because of that, I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson?
I'd like a roll call on this motion, please.
We'll go to that after Councilor Gishu raised his hand to make a comment also. Councilor Gishu?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. The motion is urging the mayor to take action. I think the mayor just went through a full discussion and understands the position of the city council. If this vote goes 6-5, whatever way it goes, it's still on the mayor. He's one of 7. The direction is going to come from the school department either way. They have the right to take an action if it goes 4-3 or either way. I think the mayor already has a direction. As we heard from the solicitor, She's taxed right now. We still have contracts that have not been signed. We don't know where they are. We're not sure where they are. This is a tough one, and I personally think that everybody has spoken. The mayor represents the city council. He's heard everybody here. Why should we divide this council in this vote? And I would ask the makers of the motion to withdraw it, but if they don't want to, I certainly will take a vote to let the mayor be himself and vote whatever way you think is right. And I think that is your job. You're over there. You hear all the information. I don't hear it. And from what I'm hearing from the city solicitor and the city manager is we're at 50% staff. We have people that are not experienced on our side of government, and we're trying to learn. So I would ask the makers of the motion, it was very clear where people stood. To let the mayor, who we all elected, go over there, and if you can change votes over there, you're better than I am, because I think that this council is stubborn as anybody else. Once they read their information, they know their information, they're going to vote their way, no matter if I go to them or another councilor goes to them. So I think that we elected a mayor to do a job, and it was very, very clear on the direction that this council wants, and I won't support forcing you to do anything. That's your job. That's why you get the big bucks as the mayor.
Any comments or any questions from the council? Councilor Leahy?
Yep, just, again, before we vote on this, it's not so much what the motion states, just urging the mayor. We're making a precedent. Next week, we're gonna urge you to do something else, and we're gonna urge you to do something else. And it's a dangerous precedent to start. We shouldn't be interfering in any way or have any perception of interfering, and it's just a slippery slope. Thank you.
Councilor Drinkwater?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I started my original comments by stating I was of two minds about this motion. And I just want to weigh in to say that I happen to think that Councilor Getchia makes some good points. We've all had the opportunity to weigh in tonight on a matter of public importance as residents of the city of Lowell, whether we have any sort of jurisdiction over this or not, or it's under our purview. We're certainly, it does have implications in terms of the city being financially responsible for any the results of any potential lawsuits. So we've all had the chance to weigh in, and that's been important. But being of two minds about the appropriateness of the motion, I happen to think that, as I said, Councilor Getchia made some good points. I think potentially the best result, now that we've had a chance to speak on it, would be to withdraw it. And again, I make that comment to the makers of the motion. If we do take a roll call on it, I will take a position on the vote. But I do think this discussion has served its intended purpose, and I don't think it would take away anything from the sentiments expressed by this council by not taking a vote on the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I said what I have to say, and I think everyone did. I consult with Councilor Robinson a little bit. I concur that you're in the top position, Mr. Mayor, and you heard us loud and clear. Because the unity of this council, we will, remove our motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Both councilors removing this motion. Any other comments or questions? Just that, and thank you for everyone's comments. And I just want to make a quick comment from up here. As mayor of the council and chairman of the school committee, I've learned quickly that I am a servant to both the council and to the school committee. I am not the master, and whatever the vote would have been tonight, I would have carried through, and I would have voted with my colleagues on the school committee side as well, because there's a similar motion tomorrow. And it's good that we respect one another, we understand our roles, and I thank all of you for giving each body the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. With that said, we'll now go to the next item that we took out of order, and thank you, Member Ms. Doherty from the School Committee for speaking tonight. The next item that was taken out of order was Item 9.8, it's a motion by Councilor Gishier and Councilor Robinson, request city manager withhold all funding to the LTC, Low Telecommunications, until the employees' union dispute is resolved. I believe I saw some good news this afternoon. Who would like to speak on this first? Councilor
I
Gishier?
got a registered speaker,
You
Mr.
do have a registered speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk?
Wednesday, Califia? Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Wednesday Clevisha. I'm the media specialist over at Lowell Telemedia Center, Lowell's local community media center. We've been part of a unionization effort for a little while now, and so just to give you guys a little bit of context as to the motion. And firstly, we just want to thank all the community support we've had during this process. It's been so fascinating and educational, and we've been moving in a really great direction since December when we started this process. We were surprised to see this motion on Friday and recognized that the counselors are looking at the work that we're doing. Also, this is Courtney, my colleague. We both work in the community department here. You guys might be familiar with Andrew and Chris, who work in the municipal department. And for viewers at home who are unfamiliar with LTC, I'll refer you to the logo at the top right of your screen. Our goal with this has always been for LTC to be able to continue the important work it does in the community, work that really matters to all of us. And we know the best way to ensure this is with a staff that has the protections and benefits of a unionization effort. And if it's okay, I'll lead to Courtney, who's also signed up to speak.
Absolutely, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Courtney, if you didn't know. But just really to wrap it up, so yeah, on Monday we were certified by the NLRB, and we are now proud members of NABIT Local 18. So we're very happy about that. And we're hoping to briskly enter the first contract negotiations, hopefully fairly soon. And of course, we appreciate the support we've received from the community and the council. And I do want to make mention of this because I wasn't expecting this support, but we also received support from IATSE Local 794, located in New York City, AFSCME Council 93, my former union, and the Merrimack Valley Central Labor Council. And yeah, we hope that you'll continue to support us going forward. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Councilor Gishier, Councilor Robinson, who would like to go first? Councilor Robinson?
I'm just glad to see that another group has the ability to organize. And again, this is a blue-collar city. We have a long history of labor and organized labor. So congratulations, and thank everybody for the support to allow another group the right to organize. And I'd like to thank my co-maker of the motion and my colleague, Councilor Gishier, as well, too. Thank you.
Councilor Gishier, any comments?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. I want to thank Councilor Robinson for supporting, but I also want to thank these guys for staying here all this time. It can be a long night sitting here, but I want you to understand that this council supports you. I have had the opportunity to speak to others, and they support you. We thank you for everything you do, and we believe in people's rights to unionize. At least I do, and Councilor Robinson and the ones that I spoke to. And I do believe that this is a positive for all of you. So I want to withdraw the motion because they had great news over the week. So, and I want to thank the manager because I had a conversation with the manager about this also. So I want to thank the staff and everybody here because, you know, that's what we're here to do is give people a good working living in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to commend the speakers as well as your coworkers on a successful organizing effort. I'm sure many people here in this chamber and many people watching know my background. I've spent my career working in the labor movement, so I'm certainly a big believer and proponent in unions as a path to a better life. That being said, doesn't mean every worker has to be in a union, but when a group of workers get together and decide that they democratically want to form a union in their workplace, the employer should respect those rights. And I know that was not always the case from the get-go in this particular campaign. I'm thrilled that this group is now officially recognized as a union, but I will take this opportunity to say that many, many times it can take well over a year for a newly formed union to successfully negotiate their first contract. And in fact, I believe the average length of a negotiation for a first contract is over 400 days. Because what you oftentimes see is that employers will fight the recognition of a union, and when they can no longer fight the recognition of a union, they drag out the negotiation of that first contract. Please do not let that be a tactic that's utilized in this particular campaign. The employees have spoken overwhelmingly that they would like to collectively negotiate a fair contract for their wages, their benefits, and their working conditions. I would just urge LTC to expeditiously sit down and negotiate a contract in good faith, and hope to see the results of that soon. So once again, want to commend the employees on standing up and taking this step together, and hope to see a first contract soon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, speakers. I want to congratulate you, and I concur with my colleagues regarding the rights to organize as an employee, and as an employer or board of director has no right to oppose what the employee and the staff would like to organize to work in any company, in any organization. So again, we support you, and congratulations for your organizing effort. So we are very proud of you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or question? Councilor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo my councilors, fellow councilors. I applaud the LTC staff for organized and for successfully organized. So good luck. Thank you.
That's the co-maker of the motion. Councilor Robertson, you agree to withdraw as well?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Congratulations. I don't think we have any items with registered speaker anymore. We now, we jump around a lot. I think the last where we left off was on item 6.1, the vote from city manager. We jump around a lot, so I'm going to ask Councilor Leahy, please stay with us. So, we're jumping back to 6.1 now, Councilor. Councilor, was it Councilor Nguyen that want to? 6.1, 6.2, and 6.5. Good call. Motion to bundle 6.1, 6.2, and 6.5 by Councilor Nguyen, second by Councilor Yam. I'm going to read each item, and we can bundle it, but we can discuss separately if the members want. 6.1, vote to expend 5,500 MCC grant case. 6.2, vote expend 75,000 MCC grant library. 6.5, vote transfer 106,000 DPW DPD. Any comments or questions by any of the council? Here, none. Need a motion to adopt by. You want to have a comment, Councilor Gishia?
On 6.5, through you to the city manager. Manager Golden, I like the idea that we're training, but I wish it was in-house. But my question is that now we're going to go out and spend $69,000 on training. Is there some kind of language in the contract that they're going to sign that they're going to be here a certain period of time, or they're going to reimburse the city those funds? Because the bus companies do that. A lot of places do that, that if we train you, get a CDL, we don't want you leaving 2 days later and saying, hey, see you later, with the training hours it takes. So will there be language put in there that will hold people to meet a certain agreement that they stay employed by the city for that period of time?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Three to the council. Great idea, Councilor. That is not a part of the part of it right now. We're just trying to get this through to make sure that the council is in favor, obviously, of increasing the 15 city employees that have showed an interest to get those CDLs. So that's something that we could put in there.
If I could just recommend one thing, if you could look at the bus company's contract language on how long a person has to stay after being trained. I just think it's fair for the taxpayers of the city that if we're going to build the workforce and we're going to train it, then we should actually get the services from it. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. In addition to what my colleague just said, a lot of communities, it's reimbursement. It's not paid up front, because if you're sending 15, 16 employees over, there's no guarantees they're getting the license. This is just the training component, and a lot is involved. So a lot of times communities are moving to, you will be reimbursed upon completion. So I mean, it is something just like a time frame that you have to remain employed in order for all this, because this could be significant expenditures associated with multiple tests in addition to the training. So I think that's something you should really sit down and carve out. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, need a motion to adopt by Councilor Jeunesse, second by Councilor Rourke. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Council Leahy?
Yes.
Council Mercia? Council Noon?
Yes.
Council Robinson?
Yes.
Council Rourke?
Yes.
Council Scott?
Yes.
Council Yem?
Yes.
Mayor Chow?
Yes.
Council Drinkwater?
Yes.
Council Getchia?
Yes.
Council Jeunesse?
Yes.
And yes.
We now add Section 7, reports of subcommittee. This is on 7.1, the Public Safety Subcommittee met today, February 14, 2023. Any report, Chair of the committee, Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this evening at 5:30, we held the Public Safety Subcommittee. Myself, Councilors Noon and Councilor Scott, the full committee was here, as well as the Health Director, Lisa Golden, Homeless Commissioner, Maureen Fitzpatrick, Austin Ball, Assistant CFO, Assistant City Manager Sean Machado, Fire Chief Phil Sharon, Parking Director Terry Ryan, Police Superintendent Barry Golner, Councilors Getchia, Yam, and Mayor Chow. Tonight there was 2 orders of business. First discussion was with the City Emergency Disaster Management Plan. Both Chief Sharon and Superintendent Golner spoke on that plan. It was talk about disasters in the community and different resources available for every type of either disaster or even things like the Folk Festival, the Bay State Marathon, and so forth. Everything from food and water supplies to shelter in case of a disaster such as we had over at the LHA building. We also talked about the Emergency Operations Center that contains all types of disciplines within the city, manager's office, fire, police departments, different community organizations, the health department, DPW, finance, everybody's involved in the Emergency Operations Center. The last version was done in 2019. In the latest 2 situations that the city has dealt with is obviously the COVID pandemic, and then, as we talked about earlier, the water main that burst a few months ago. The EMS staff is almost as close to being full, which should be done by the end of March, and they have been and will continue to meet regularly every month. Also, there was talk this evening about the amending an ordinance of commercial parking with commercial vehicles in the city. Originally, there's a public hearing and a vote to be taken by the council for $50 per violation. Everybody that spoke, as far as the council and those councilors that were in attendance, had an interest in raising the fines. And the main reason for that was public safety. Fire trucks trying to get down side streets or main roads, plows during snowstorms, emergency vehicles, ambulances, and police cruisers as well. There was much talk about either a tiered system or whatnot, but due to the capabilities of both the parking department and the police department, we look forward to having an amended version of the ordinance come before us that will increase the fees from $50 to, what the law department brings back to us, what should be done in the next 5 or 6 weeks. There was one motion filed by Councilor Scott concerning such, and we look forward to the law department getting back to us as soon as possible to take this issue up once again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, need a motion to accept the report as report of progress by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Yam. Motion is adopted. The next item is 7.2, wire inspection, Boston Gas DBA National Grid to relocate approximately 26 feet of an existing 6-inch gas main. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, need a motion to accept, to adopt the accompanying orders by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Jines. Motion is adopted. The next item is number 8 on the petition, 8.1, claims to property damage. Any comments or questions by any councilor? Hearing none, motion to refer to Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Drinkwater, second by Councilor Jines. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. 8.2, Mass Electric DBA National Grid install 1 geopole 5-3 and extend secondary to new pole on Burnside Street. Any comments or questions on this one? Councilor Gishia and Councilor Leahy. Who would like to go first? Councilor Leahy?
Sure. Well, there was a lot of discussion on this. Is there anybody here that can tell us where the pole is exactly going to go?
Mr. Manager? Is anybody here? Yeah. Well, it's going to be discussed at public hearing. Who will you talk about?
I thought we already did that. No.
Mr. Machado?
So I know that the National Grid went out and met with the resident that was concerned, and they worked out a space where he was happy with it. And
It's definitely going between the two houses.
I'm not exactly sure, but I know National Grid went out and met with, I forget the gentleman's name that I spoke to, but they kind of hashed it out with National Grid, and he was happy with the new location.
All right, can we just double check on that tomorrow to
Absolutely.
make sure? But otherwise, we're going to approve this tonight, right? No. Did we already approve it? No, we're just sending it?
No, this is going for the public hearing.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's going to go to public hearing February 28th. Do you have any comments still, Councilor Gishia?
I do. So when you go on to the city website, they've asked National Grid, that the homeowner and the city engineer, on the work request, it has the same number for both. And that's where the question's coming in. So the first location that they put, it has the same work number as the second one. So the resident is just saying, can we just verify or separate the work order so that we know that we're putting this pole in the right location? It would be a quality of life issue if this pole goes into the original position. So if it's going to a public hearing, I will trust that we'll come back with the drawing that's rendered. I would hate to go to a public hearing and just come back with the same thing we already did. So if we can just revisit that, thank you.
Sure. Great comment, Councilor Gishia, and the individual at the resident. I spoke with him also, that's a good request for clarity, for peace of mind for that resident. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, need a motion to refer to public hearing on February 28, 2023 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Gishia, second by Councilor Leahy. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion is carried. We now have reached the section of the City Council motions. We'll start with 9.1. Councilor Robinson requests City Manager work with Property Department and the neighbor to the Green Hodge School on Enel Street to remove old gate, adjust signage, consider installing section of walkway, and develop a beautification plan to the area. Second by Councilor Nguyen. Councilor Robinson. Councilor Robinson is left.
Motion speaks for itself.
Motion to speak first. Thank you, Councilor Rourke. Excellent. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. 9.2. A motion by Councilor Robinson requests City Manager look into training surrounding art installation projects for members of administration tasked with the responsibility via NAFA, make it public for Mass Artist Program.
Second.
Second by Councilor Nguyen again. Any comments by any of the councilors? Motion to speak for itself. Thank you, Councilor. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. 9.3. Welcome back, Councilor Robinson. Your motion to request City Manager have Property Department provide a report on the weight difference with old and new vacs for downtown and all the newly acquired equipment suitable to be operated on our aging infrastructure. Second by Councilor Jines. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. The new equipment that was bought, it looks great. I know the city of Boston uses similar, but again, we have vaults and our setup is a lot different. and I've brought this up before for winter operations. If we're making purchases, I think it's a good idea to go out and first assess what that equipment's going to be used on, whether it's using our engineers or whatever it may be. And second, speak to the employees that are running the equipment. I just would hate to see an investment into upgraded equipment that can't be utilized for what we initially were planning. So I think it's a smart way to do business. You wouldn't purchase a car without test driving it and finding all the information out available. So I think it's the same kind of thing here when we're looking to improve and provide our employees with the right equipment to do the job. A lot of factors go into that consideration. Thank you.
Any other comments on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion is carried. Motion 9.4, also by Councilor Robinson, request city manager provide a copy of current LAS insurance, LAZ insurance policy, and update on parking garages infrastructure status, second by Councilor Gishia. Councilor Robinson.
Motion speaks for itself. Thank you.
Councilor, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion is carried. Motion 9.5, a motion by Councilor Robinson, Councilor Gishia, Councilor Janess, request city manager work with proper departments and Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball League to coordinate a citywide opening day ceremony / parade in downtown, similar to the Festival of Lights parade. Who would like to go first? Councilor Robinson?
So, I mean, they centralized our youth softball and baseball leagues, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the city to come out. And we always talk about getting the community together, bringing people in the downtown to support our local small businesses. And I think this is an example of a little bit of outside-the-box thinking. And I think it'd be great to see the kids in their uniforms parade through the downtown and bring the parents and guardians and friends down there to support our small businesses. So I look forward to what the motion response on this one is. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Robinson called me on this. I think it's just a great idea. Big potential for some huge win-win stuff here. You know, good for the businesses, great for the kids, great for the families, just great for Lowell. So I think it's an awesome idea, and I look forward to seeing if we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Chow. You know, being a coach for many years in the city, I never thought that this could come true when Ryan Rourke and Chris Snow and Matt Alasha, how they brought all the districts together as one unit. And I think this will be unbelievable to be able to walk through, even though it's Wayne's district and not District 8. I think District 8 would be a great place. But no, downtown would be phenomenal to see as many of these kids smile and actually get a feel for downtown and then maybe end at the steps like out front. I just think this is an amazing opportunity to bring everybody together. The city has never seen this before, so we hope that, Mr. Manager, you can get this done. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and thanks to the councils that filed it. I think if we incorporate maybe the chamber as well and some businesses, maybe put a little money into it to promote it. You know, some local restaurants want to, you know, give some either a discount or a couple of coupons for, you know, for kids to visit their establishments. I think it really could be a home run, lack of a better term, right, for downtown on that weekend. Thank you.
Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A great motion. You know, so when you start to put this together, Mr. Managers, if I may ask, Councilor Kuchia, just name a few of the people who are behind this centralized the baseball and softball league in Lowell. Maybe bringing these three individuals, maybe more, to be part of this, you know, put together plan for the parade like this. Maybe next year, maybe this year. Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All of a sudden is huge. Great motion, great idea. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Motion 9.6, Councilor Robinson and Councilor Gishia request city manager work with the university and Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball League to establish and plan a date for tournament utilizing the Latcher Park. Who would like to go first? Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. We did this last year with the championship game, I believe it was, between Centerville and Shed, maybe. And I think it's another great opportunity. The kids remember this their entire life if they never play ball again. If we can get, especially with a unified league like this now, it's a perfect opportunity to work with the league, see what dates work for everybody involved, and try to get as many kids and family into the stadium to enjoy just the sense of community and camaraderie. So if we can make some headway on this, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Councilor Kishia?
Thank you, Mayor Chow. I agree with Councilor Robinson. I think that as we open up a citywide grouping for baseball at that level, we should look also to make a tournament, a 3-day weekend tournament, and invite other communities in outside of Lowell so we could actually have some more people come in and enjoy the area, and also all of our teams from the city get into one big tournament. And I think it would have a big result for the city. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you. I'll just quickly echo the thoughts of my colleagues here. I do, once again, think this is a great idea, a great opportunity for the kids. And also, Mr. Mayor, I think you should start warming up that arm, because I think you should throw out the first pitch for the tournament.
Thank you, Councilor. Not quite sure how to follow that one. But two great motions, and an idea just came to mind before we take a vote. With the maker of the motion for both motions, would you see this could be on the same day, like you have like a parade going to have the tournament? That would be just up for whatever you want to decide. But it would be a question that...
Normally, you don't do that because at the beginning of the year, the kids aren't ready for tournament stuff. So normally they take the walkthrough, and then the tournaments come towards like the June, July area when the kids are more engaged and their experience level goes up.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. The next motion is item 9.7. Councilor Robinson, Councilor Gishia, request city manager provide an update on the anticipated upgrades to all baseball and softball fields citywide, including details such as laser grading as well as timeline. Councilor Gishia.
Thank you, Mayor Chow. I saw over the fall that we did some work to certain fields already, and they're not completely finished yet. You can see they were started, so that's really what we're looking at, is seeing will they be prepared for opening day. With this weather right now, if it continues through February and into March, it looks like we may do well. So we're hoping that we can get back on these fields and get them graded and everything. I think we want to see where we are, because even last year, I believe at this time, we put in motions like this to see where we're going to be, and hopefully we can get these fields ready. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. There was also discussion early on about potentially utilizing open space money or ARPA money. I don't know if that's something exterior or interior that you'd be looking at to do, but I know there was discussions about laser grading and getting our fields really up to speed. I know in-house we've never had the capability of laser grading, so I believe there's been some discussions with vendors that were able to do it, so I'd just love to hear back. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. We already have taken up motion 9.8 and 9.9. We're now going to go to motion 9.10. Councilor Scott requesting the manager have the appropriate department provide an update on the current status of the vacant property at 48 Kinsman Street and other similar properties that have fallen into disrepair, and any improvements that can be made to the process. Second by Councilor Yem. Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property has been an eyesore, actually, for quite a long time in the neighborhood. It's boarded up, and now neighbors have used it to drop, a couple mattresses. The limbs are growing up through the front of the house at this point. It's a beautiful little house that a family would love to live in. So I did look into it a little bit, and I'm sure it's not the only property in the city like this. They did do a search for heirs back in 2018, but then it basically ended there, and nothing had been done since then. It just seems like there should be more that we can do to move the process along quicker. Like I said, it's not fair to the neighbors, and it's not fair right now. We're in a housing crisis. So if there's anything we can do to improve this, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. We now go to motion 9.11. A joint motion by Councilor Scott and Councilor Robinson request city manager provide a report on the process used for appointment to the LTC, the Lowell Telecommunication, seats dedicated to the city council, and the city manager appointments. Who would like to go first? Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was doing a little research on this just because of what was going on with the union representation. And when I looked online, it said that 50% of the seats are made up by the city council appointments, the city manager appointments, and the school committee appointments. I found a document that said the last appointments were done in January of 2020. And I was just trying to see if there was some follow-up that we could have to that. I just wanted to make sure when we were talking about not respecting workers' rights to unionize, that we weren't part of the problem with our appointees on the board, or that we didn't have an additional seat that we could have filled that isn't filled. And then it came to light, other people reached out to me and asked about other boards that hadn't, empty seats that hadn't been filled, including the library. So I don't know if there's any way we can kind of put this in the responsibility of one person, maybe, that will handle all of the board, reappointments, and let us know when it's time to appoint someone. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson? Yeah. Councilor Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was appointed to that board by then Mayor Leahy back then. That was a long time ago. I think, Mayor, you have opportunity to appoint member of the council, so does the manager. So I know that the school committee have, I believe Connie Martin is appointed by the school, so, yeah.
Any other comment? Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I'd like to also echo my colleague, Councilor Scott's idea of having one person to run point on all these boards and commission seats, but I would also like to ask that we leverage the existing applicant tracking system for people who are interested in boards and commission seats, because I think it gives us a way to build a bench of people who might be interested. Maybe they're not the person to fill this particular seat, but if they're interested in serving, it'd be an easy way to keep track of them, to be able to call them and say, hey, would you be interested in this other seat? Or if another seat comes open on that same board, it'll speed the process along of filling those seats if we have a database of people who are interested in serving in these roles. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. The next, we've already taken up motion 9.12. We're now going to go to motion 9.13. It's a joint motion by Councilor Drinkwater and Councilor Robinson and Councilor Gishier. Request city manager have the law department draft an ordinance requiring that all contractors and subcontractors working on city construction projects valued at over $1 million employ apprentices registered in a bona fide apprentice training program and establishing minimum apprentice ratios. Who would like to go first? Councilor Drinkwater?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a lot of really great momentum of late in support of the use of apprentices on especially public funded projects. We've talked a lot recently in this chamber about investments being made at the federal level through the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law, which are going to bring many dollars and lots of work into communities throughout the country. And when you dig into those pieces of legislation, you'll see that there's a lot of areas in there that incentivize the use of apprenticeship. In many of the competitive grants or other programs, the federal government is encouraging construction end users to use apprentices to carry out that work. And one of the reasons for doing so, and I'm directly quoting a communication from the Federal Department of Labor, is that one method of encouraging equitable workforce development strategies like pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship programs and infrastructure projects is by establishing minimum apprentice threshold requirements. Put simply, apprenticeship provides an opportunity for new people to enter a quality career in the construction trades. And I think where we can in this city, when our tax dollars are at work, we should be making sure that we're working with responsible contractors for one, that participate in apprentice training, and that employ apprentices, and that by setting minimum ratios for the number of apprentices who are included on public construction projects, city construction projects, that we're opening up opportunities for people right here in this community to enter trades and get apprentice hours and earn wages on projects here in this city. Following on the guidance that's coming right from our federal government to promote apprenticeship in terms to create an equitable workforce strategy, and also there's legislation that has been filed for the first time at the state level that would also create an apprentice requirement and ratios for any public work under Chapter 149 over $1 million. So thought it made sense to just use the same monetary threshold from that state legislation, and hopefully bring something forward that can be discussed here on the council floor. But I think anything we can do here in this chamber through city policy to open up opportunity for people in this community looking for that way to potentially start a career in the building trades is something that will only benefit the city and its residents. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kishia.
Thank you, Mayor Chow. Lowell has always been a working class city, and we've been a city that Prentice is where it all starts. So this just makes sense. I thank Councilor Drinkwater and Councilor Robinson for putting together this motion. It's an amazing motion that will open the door of opportunity. Being a tradesperson, you have to start somewhere. And it's not only for someone to start, but it's also for career changes of others. So some people may have fallen on hard times and wanted a career path change. So this is a great opportunity for our city, and we are a working class city, so that this is a great motion, and I thank my two colleagues for assisting me on it.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. One word that both of my colleagues echoed multiple times: opportunity. Growing up, I know learning a trade, learning something that you can do with your hands, saved a lot of people that I know. It allowed them to put food on the table and provide a good life for their family. I think if you look around our community, whether it's youth build, whether it's UTEC, the need from the trades groups, the Volk schools, perfect example, 600 plus kid waiting list. There's a desire out there for trades. And so as a community, if we can facilitate a program where the trades are thriving and our residents can earn a quality wage and provide for their family and provide and pay some of these high rents that are out there, I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. So anything we can do to try to bring opportunity to the community, sign me up, please. Thank you.
Councilor Janess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, thank you so much to these three colleagues who brought this forward. I think this is a really exciting idea, and I hope it's something we can do. I think, as everyone else said, it opens up opportunities, and it's something that we can use to drive equity in this city. And I think that there's a big opportunity here. And I'd be curious to know if there are other cities who currently employ something like this in the Commonwealth. I'm not sure if that's something the solicitor knows off the top of her head or not, but it can be included in this response. There's no reason we can't do it if other cities aren't doing it. For Lowell to be a leader on this, I think is extremely appropriate with our history as a working class town. Building the city up from nothing into what we have today was done with a lot of local hands. So the more we can perpetuate those opportunities going forward, the better. Thanks for bringing this forward.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. The next motion is 9.14 by Councilor Leahy, request City Council approve of allowing the school department to contribute to building a permanent building that would house office space, concession stand, and weight room at College Stadium. Second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Leahy.
Thank This motion came to me through the Colley Stadium private group that's trying to beautify Colley Stadium and the surrounding area. So basically, what they just want to make sure that the city council is on board. This motion is before the school committee tomorrow night. They just would like to have our blessing that they think that it's a better idea instead of spending all that money on a modular that would only last so much X amount of years, that this permanent building, which could be which could be built with the same amount of money, allowed to happen. So that's what I'm looking for in the motion.
Any other comments or questions on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. The last motion of the evening is also by Councilor Leahy. Request city manager work with DPD to develop a plan for second and third floor downtown building space using all means to help finance grants and other bank programs. Second by Councilor Yam. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Again, this motion is nothing new. We've all had motions on this. But I guess through discussions with community leaders in the downtown area, what I'm asking for is maybe we take a different approach. Maybe we try to see if there's grants out there, if we can get some bankers to commit to some low-interest loans. Maybe there's other programs out there that we can get. Minority, all-woman construction companies, things like that nature. So let's see if we can really get the ball rolling on trying to fix up the downtown, trying to get the second and third floors renovated and rented out. See if we can help them with, if it's sprinkler systems, elevators, whatever they need. But I think this council and the past council, what we're really looking for to do is to say, look, we want the downtown to be prosperous, we want it to be cleaned up, we want it to be vibrant. So if you're not part of this program, let us know, but we want the downtown to be utilized. So let's really see if there's a different way of looking at this, and if we can get these property owners to utilize their buildings. Thank you.
Councilor Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Leahy is correct. Just a couple weeks ago, I filed a number of motions around it. A couple weeks ago, as late as last week, Councilor Rook also filed motion, Councilor Murcia. I think this is a good motion. This is show a consistency, persistent on the part of the council, because this would encourage the encouragement of develop the Apple floor certainly will have a positive impact on the economic development of downtown. So anything we can do, we should be doing it and looking at all angles because the success of the downtown will be rely on what we're going to do with the second and third floor redevelopment. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. The announcement section. Any announcement by any of the councilors or Mr. Manager? Any announcement from the council? Councilor Robinson.
Just a reminder, this weekend, Winterfest. I don't have the schedule, but the schedule of events is on the City of Lowell's website currently, and I believe it starts Friday. So just a reminder, Winterfest starts Friday this weekend.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council. I just want to remind everybody that next week being President's Week, we are on our regular schedule for trash. We're probably going to keep reminding folks this when this Monday holiday comes up. So please remember that we are on our regular pickups. Secondly, the council knows this with the ARPA piece coming out tomorrow. ARPA recovery, $750,000, storefront revitalization at about $500,000. And facilities rehabilitation for 501c3s up to $2 million. So that will be being released tomorrow. So everyone should be ready to start applying for that. There will be a webinar as well, another webinar on ARPA, and that's going to be on February 28th at 4 p.m. This will all be in the packet that you guys were sent, as well as the link for that. So feel free to share that tomorrow when it's released. Thanks. Thank you.
Any announcement? I just have a quick question to the birthday committee chairman, Councilor Yam. Do you have a call? Today is St. Cupid's birthday.
I was gonna wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. You know, we have to work, but my wife said we'll celebrate it tomorrow, and I say amen.
I want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day as well. Thank you. Good night. Need a motion adjourned by Councilor Drinkwater, second by Councilor Gishia. Motion is adopted. Have a great night.